HOA, Karen demanded my wife hand over our newborn. Unaware, I'm a Navy SEAL. It started on a Sunday morning, the kind of quiet suburb calm that almost feels fake. Birds, sprinklers, sunlight on fresh-cut grass. My wife, Emily, stood outside rocking our newborn, still in her hospital robe, finally catching a breath after sleepless nights. That's when Karen showed up. She didn't knock. She never did. Her voice cracked through the stillness like a drill sergeant. That baby's been crying since 6 a.m. This is an HOA community, not a daycare. Emily froze. The baby whimpered. I was inside, halfway through my first sip of coffee, when I heard the tone, that entitled shrill that triggers every defensive instinct in a father. By the time I stepped outside, Karen was already halfway up our porch, clipboard in hand, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She leaned close to my wife, whispering something I'll never forget. If you can't handle that infant, I'll make sure someone takes her. Who can? I didn't speak at first, just stared. Years of Navy training teaching me restraint, posture, silence. The kind that unnerves people more than shouting ever could. Karen's grin flickered. Oh, you must be her husband, she said, voice dripping condescension. This neighborhood has standards. You'll learn. The baby began to cry harder, her tiny fists trembling. Emily backed away, but I stepped between them, my shadow cutting through the morning light. Karen, I said, evenly, step off my property. Her smile froze. For the first time, she looked uncertain because in my eyes she saw something that didn't belong to the suburbs. Something trained, cold, and ready. Before you hear what happened next, tell me, what would you have done if a stranger threatened your newborn on your own porch? 3 weeks before that morning, we'd finally moved into the neighborhood. After 12 years in the Navy SEALs, tours, deployments, nights that never ended, I thought I'd found peace. The realtor called the place Maple Grove Estates. Quiet streets, flagpoles in every yard, and neighbors who smiled too perfectly. Emily loved it, said it looked like the kind of place where our daughter, Lily, could grow up safe. I wanted to believe her. Our house sat at the edge of a cul-de-sac. White porch swing, blue shutters, the kind of American calm I dreamed of overseas. The air smelled of pine mulch and barbecues, not diesel smoke and ocean salt. I spent mornings walking with Emily, pushing the stroller, pretending the nightmares were gone. Karen lived 2 houses down. The HOA president. She introduced herself the day we moved in clipboard named Badge and a handshake that felt more like a warning. We like things orderly here, she said. Noise, decorations, parking, everything's regulated. Emily smiled politely, still fragile from childbirth, still adjusting to Lily's feeding schedule. But I noticed the way Karen's eyes flicked over the baby, not with warmth, but judgment. The first note came 3 days later. A thin, white envelope taped to our door. Excessive crying at night violates community noise guidelines. I actually laughed when I read it. Thought it was a joke. But Emily didn't. She looked small, embarrassed. I'm trying my best, she whispered, voice cracking. That night, I held both her and Lily until they fell asleep and listened to the neighborhood's silence press against the walls like an accusation. The next morning, Karen waved from her porch with her perfect little smile. I waved back, the kind of military courtesy that hides everything. For a while, I convinced myself it would pass. Every mission I ever led had taught me to wait, observe, adapt. But Karen wasn't an enemy I could predict. She didn't follow logic or command. She followed control. And though I didn't know it yet, her obsession with our baby was about to cross a line no soldier could ignore. The first real clash came on a Thursday afternoon. The sun was bright enough to make the street shimmer, the kind of day when you expect lemonade and quiet, not confrontation. Emily had just settled on the porch, rocking Lily in her arms, when Karen's familiar heels clicked across the driveway like warning bells. She carried her clipboard again, flanked by 2 HOA board members, both older men, both wearing polite, uneasy smiles. I watched from inside, one hand still on the curtain, the other gripping my mug tighter. Mrs. Collins, Karen started, her tone as brittle as her smile, we've received several complaints. Your baby's crying can be heard halfway down the street. This isn't appropriate for a community of this standard. Emily blinked, stunned. She's 3 weeks old, she said softly. Babies cry. That's what they do. Karen's nostrils flared. If you can't maintain peace, we'll have to issue a formal notice. There are decibel regulations. You signed the agreement. I stepped outside then, slow and steady. The board members straightened instantly when they saw me. I wasn't in uniform anymore, but years of command never really leave a man's shoulders. Karen, I said, keeping my voice level, you're standing on my lawn, talking to my wife like she's a tenant. Step back. Her lips tightened. We're just trying to keep standards, she replied. This isn't personal. But it was personal. I could see it in her eyes, something about Emily's softness, our newness, maybe even our refusal to play her game. She slid an envelope onto the porch railing, the paper fluttering in the breeze. First official warning, she said. Next one comes with a fine. When they left, Emily sat frozen. The baby stirred in her arms, sensing her tension. I knelt beside her and said, Ignore her. She can't touch us. But as night fell, something in me stayed, restless. Old instincts, situational awareness. Every sound, every car light outside, it all felt off. Around midnight, I caught a flicker on the porch camera feed. Karen's silhouette. She was standing there, staring at the nursery window. No clipboard this time. No board members. Just her. And a flashlight beam dancing across the curtains. That's when I realized this wasn't about noise. This was about control. And in her twisted mind, our newborn had become her next mission. The following week, everything changed. It was as if Karen had declared an invisible war, and every neighbor on the street was a potential recruit. It started small, whispered conversations that stopped when Emily passed by with the stroller. A neighbor who suddenly stopped waving. Flyers pinned to the community board about maintaining peaceful noise levels for family harmony. The language was vague, but everyone knew who it was aimed at. Then came the letters, folded and signed, slipped into our mailbox. Some of us think a new mother should show more discipline. Perhaps your husband should consider a parenting class offered by the HOA. Emily read one and broke down crying. She was already fragile from postpartum exhaustion. I held her, listening to Lily's soft breaths between us. My mind, though, was somewhere else in that calm, measured place the Navy taught me to stay when chaos begins. By Saturday, Karen escalated again. She stood outside during Lily's morning feeding, recording audio on her phone, pretending to document violations. I walked out, every muscle in my body screaming restraint. Karen, I said quietly, you're invading our privacy. I'm protecting the neighborhood, she snapped. Some people need oversight. Step off the sidewalk, I warned. Now. Her chin lifted. Or what? For a second, the wind died. The world went still. My training whispered through me, control the tone, control the field, never react first. So I didn't. I just stared until she flinched and retreated, muttering something about unfit parents. That night, I checked the footage again. There she was, circling the property line like a hawk, stopping to peer through the fence, flashlight in hand. She didn't even hide it. Emily wanted to call the police, but I told her to wait. Not because I doubted her fear, but because I knew people like Karen. Once you push them publicly, they come back harder, smarter, crueler. I needed proof, not emotion, not confrontation. Evidence. Still, each day that passed, I saw the toll it took. Emily's eyes grew darker. Lily's cries became softer, like even she sensed the tension pressing against her walls. Karen wanted control. She wanted submission. And she was about to learn that she picked the wrong family and the wrong man to intimidate. It happened on a gray morning, heavy clouds hanging low like a warning. Emily was walking Lily to the mailbox, just 20 steps from our porch, when Karen appeared again. No clipboard this time, no pretense of civility. Just that same tight smile stretched over something hateful. I was on the driveway, loading tools into the garage. I remember the smell of rain, the metallic taste in the air. I glanced up just as Karen blocked Emily's path. I told you this can't continue, she snapped. You're disturbing the entire block. Emily held Lily closer, confused. She's asleep, she whispered. We're just getting the mail. Karen's eyes flicked to the baby, sharp and assessing. Let me see her. Emily stepped back. Excuse me? I said, let me see the baby. Karen's voice rose, echoing off the houses. Curtains moved in windows. Someone paused their lawnmower. We've had reports of neglect. That word, neglect, snapped through the air like a whip. Emily's face went pale. Lily stirred, her little hand trembling against her mother's shoulder. I dropped the wrench and crossed the lawn in seconds. Karen, I said, my voice low, trained, steady, you need to go home. Not until I make sure that child's safe, she said. If you're hiding something enough. I stepped between them. She tried to peer around me, but I blocked every inch of her view. For a moment, all I heard was the baby's soft whimper and the rumble of distant thunder. Then Karen smiled. It wasn't friendly, it was calculated. Fine, she said, backing away slowly. But I'll make sure someone comes who has the authority to check. She turned and walked off, her phone already in her hand, muttering into the receiver. That night, a car slowed outside our house. A flash of a camera. Then another. Emily stood at the window, trembling. What if she really called someone, she whispered. She won't stop, I said quietly. Not until I stop her. That was the moment something changed inside me. The soldier I'd buried under peaceful dreams came back online. Calm, methodical, precise. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. And to get it, I'd have to start thinking like I was back on a mission because, in a way, I was. The next day, I turned the house into a quiet operation zone. Cameras on every angle. Microphones hidden near the porch. I even placed a motion sensor near the fence where Karen liked to hover. Emily didn't argue. She'd seen the fear in Karen's eyes twist into something else. By noon, Karen struck again. This time she came with a fake smile and a basket of cookies. I watched from the window, every instinct screaming set up. Just wanted to apologize, she said sweetly when Emily opened the door. New mom stress, you know? I overreacted. Emily, ever gentle, tried to stay polite. It's fine, Karen. Karen leaned in, peering past her. May I come in and say hello to the baby? Emily froze. No, she's sleeping. Karen's tone sharpened a little too fast. Oh, so she does sleep. That line wasn't just snide, it was bait. I noted every word, every twitch in her voice. Watching the footage live on my phone, I could feel my pulse slow, the old operational calm setting in. Emily, I said softly from behind her, stepping into view. Close the door. Karen's smile vanished like a mask slipping off. You're recording me, aren't you? She hissed. I didn't answer. The door clicked shut in her face. Through the camera feed, I saw her stand there for a full minute, fists trembling. Then she walked to the street and snapped photos of our front yard, our car, even the mailbox. An hour later, a white sedan rolled up. No markings. 2 people stepped out with clipboards, county inspection badges. Anonymous welfare concern, they said, reported by your HOA. Karen watched from her porch, arms folded. She thought she'd won. But what she didn't know was that every word she'd spoken that morning was recorded, her admission of staging proof, her comments about new mom stress. As the officers checked Lily's nursery and left satisfied, I walked down the porch and met Karen's eyes across the street. She smiled smugly, calling out, "Told you someone would come." I smiled back, the kind of slow, quiet smile that means the trap just snapped shut. She had no idea she'd just given me everything I needed. It happened 2 days later, the day everything finally broke. Sunday afternoon. Emily was inside nursing Lily, the house quiet except for the soft rhythm of the rocking chair and the hum of the baby monitor. I was in the garage, fixing a loose hinge on the stroller, when I heard a knock. Sharp. Official. When I opened the door, 2 uniformed officers stood on the porch. Behind them, Karen hovered at the sidewalk, arms folded, pretending to be concerned. "Sir," one officer said, "we received another welfare complaint." The caller stated the infant may be in distress. Emily appeared behind me, clutching Lily protectively. "She's fine," she said, her voice shaking. "We've already been cleared." Karen's voice floated over the hedge. "I just heard screaming earlier. I thought someone had to check. It's my duty as HOA president." Her tone was syrup sweet, but I caught the flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. The officers were polite, but firm. "We're required to see the child, ma'am." Emily's breathing quickened. I stepped forward, blocking the doorway. "You can look from here," I said evenly. "She's healthy. No reason for concern." But Karen didn't want reason. She wanted drama. "Why so defensive?" she shouted. "Unless you have something to hide." The baby startled, crying in Emily's arms. One of the officers gestured gently. "Ma'am, please. It's okay, we'll be quick." Reluctantly, Emily let them in. They checked Lily, clean, fed, warm, perfectly fine. They apologized, said they'd file the report as unfounded. But Karen wasn't done. She stepped closer, voice trembling with fake indignation. "You didn't even check the crib. Or the bottle. What if they're unsafe?" That's when she made her move. In one swift motion, she reached for the stroller and tried to pull the baby carrier out of Emily's hands. The scream that tore from my wife's throat is something I'll never forget. The sound of a mother's terror, primal, broken. I reacted on instinct. My hand gripped Karen's wrist before she could lift the carrier. My voice dropped to that low, cold register the Navy taught me, the one meant to stop chaos. "Let go." For a moment, her eyes met mine, and she finally saw what she'd been taunting all along. The control, the quiet, the man who'd spent years handling worse than her. She yanked back, stumbling into the officers. "He assaulted me," she shrieked. The officers separated us quickly. One stayed with her, the other with us. Emily was crying, holding Lily close, shaking uncontrollably. Karen clutched her wrist dramatically. "He grabbed me. He's dangerous. He's military trained." The officer sighed. "Ma'am, you tried to take the child." Her face twisted. "Because she's unsafe." But my cameras had captured everything, the reach, the grab, the aggression. Within minutes, I had the footage pulled up on my phone. I held it out silently to the officer. He watched, nodded, and turned back toward Karen. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "you need to leave the property now." Karen's bravado cracked. "You don't understand. He's lying. He's manipulating." The officer's tone hardened. "Enough. Step back." Karen backed away slowly, her lips trembling, but her eyes still burning with something darker. Obsession, humiliation, rage. As she walked off, the sky opened up, rain pouring down like it had been holding its breath. Emily sank into my arms, sobbing. Lily's small hand clutched my shirt, her heart beat fast against mine. That was the day I realized Karen didn't just want control, she wanted possession. And from that moment on, I wasn't protecting peace anymore. I was defending my family. That night, the house felt colder than it ever had. Rain tapped against the windows, rhythmic and hollow, while Emily sat on the couch clutching Lily, too shaken to speak. Every creak of the floorboards made her flinch. Every shadow outside the blinds made her tense. I walked the perimeter 3 times before midnight, checking locks, cameras, even the shed. My training made me methodical, clear corners, anticipate entry points, look for patterns. But this wasn't combat. It was paranoia, the kind that comes when your enemy hides behind neighborhood smiles. Emily whispered at one point, "What if she comes back?" "She won't," I said automatically. But even as I said it, I didn't believe myself. By morning, word had spread. A few neighbors dropped by pretending to check in. Their eyes said it all, pity mixed with judgment. They'd heard Karen's version first. Aggressive ex-military husband. Unstable mother. HOA president assaulted in defense of a baby's safety. I watched from the porch as Karen stood across the street, chatting with a small crowd, her wrist wrapped in a bandage for dramatic effect. She was telling her story, shaping the narrative. I wanted to march over, set the record straight, but Emily's trembling voice stopped me. "Please, don't give her more attention. That's what she wants." She was right. Karen thrived on conflict, and until the police finished their report, I couldn't risk escalating things. That afternoon, a car from Child Protective Services pulled up again. A follow-up inspection, routine, they said. I showed them the same footage, the same timestamps, the same proof. They apologized again. But this time, one of them quietly admitted, she's been calling daily, sometimes twice. That's when the fear turned into something else, resolve. I stayed up all night watching the camera feeds, time-stamping every visit, every trespass, every violation. Karen thought she was breaking us down, making us paranoid. What she didn't realize was that she was building her own case, one frame at a time. At 3:12 a.m., the security light flicked on. Karen's figure moved by the fence again, phone camera raised, muttering to herself. And as I watched her through the screen, I finally said it out loud. All right, Karen, game over. Because I wasn't going to react anymore. I was going to document, and soon, the truth would be impossible for even her to spin. By Monday morning, I had hours of footage neatly organized, timestamps, transcripts, still frames, and even audio clips of Karen's threats. Every move she made was a breadcrumb leading back to her own undoing. I'd learned long ago that the best way to end a battle wasn't rage, it was precision. At 9 a.m., I drove straight to the precinct. The officer from the last call-out, Sergeant Brooks, recognized me immediately. Back again, he asked, half tired, half sympathetic. I handed him a flash drive. Everything you need to stop her. He plugged it in, watching silently as Karen's nightly trespasses, her stage, noise recordings, and the moment she tried to grab Lily played out in crisp detail. No words were needed. She's been filing complaints daily, he muttered. But this flips the whole story. By noon, an official report was filed. A restraining order was initiated. The HOA board was contacted for questioning. But even as the legal wheels turned, the emotional toll at home deepened. Emily was exhausted, drained in ways I hadn't seen even during my deployments. She developed anxiety so severe she couldn't sleep without Lily's bassinet beside her. Sometimes she'd wake up crying, whispering, she'll come back. She always comes back. I kept my composure, but inside I was burning. That evening, Karen made her last mistake. She showed up again, pacing near our yard, yelling at neighbors that the seal and his unstable wife were endangering a child. Someone called 911, not me this time, but one of the same neighbors who'd once avoided us. Police cars rolled in fast. This time, she didn't get to talk her way out. Brooks himself led her to the curb, his voice steady but cold. Ma'am, you're in violation of an active restraining order. Karen laughed until he showed her the paperwork. Then her face fell. You can't do this. I'm the HOA president. Not anymore, he said. They voted you out this morning. As they cuffed her, she looked right at me, and in her eyes there was no remorse, just disbelief that she'd lost control. Emily stood at the window, clutching Lily close. For the first time in weeks, the baby slept peacefully through the sirens. I didn't feel triumph, just relief, deep silent relief. The kind that comes when a mission's done, but the ghosts still linger. 3 weeks later, the case went to court. It wasn't just a restraining order hearing anymore. The DA had opened charges for harassment, trespassing, falsifying reports, and child endangerment. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and coffee. 2 cents I'd learned to associate with bureaucracy and waiting. Emily sat beside me, her hands trembling slightly, but she looked stronger than she had in weeks. Lily was with my sister in the hallway, sleeping peacefully, blissfully unaware of what her parents were fighting through. Karen arrived last. Her perfect suburban armor was cracking, roots showing in her hair, clothes slightly wrinkled, eyes tired. She still tried to play her part, whispering to her lawyer, pretending she was the victim. When they called my name, I walked to the stand with the same calm I'd carried into a dozen missions. My pulse didn't race. My breathing stayed measured. The trick wasn't confidence, it was discipline. The prosecutor began. Mr. Collins, can you describe when you first felt targeted by Ms. Avery? I explained Everything: the first complaint letter, the surveillance footage, the attempted grab. My words were factual, not emotional. But every few sentences, I could feel the tension in the room grow thicker. Then came the footage. The screen lit up with timestamps, clear as day. Karen stepping onto our property, aiming her phone through windows, whispering threats under her breath. The clip of her grabbing for the stroller played last. You could hear Lily's faint cry, Emily's scream, and my voice, firm but steady, commanding her to stop. Karen looked down, her jaw tight, her hands trembling. The judge leaned forward. "Ms. Avery, do you dispute this evidence?" Her lawyer hesitated. "Your Honor, my client was acting out of concern." The judge cut him off. Concern doesn't excuse aggression or trespassing, nor does it justify false police reports. Then came Emily's turn. She spoke softly, voice breaking once, but her honesty pierced through the courtroom like light through fog. She made me afraid to walk outside. She made me feel like a bad mother, all because my baby cried. Karen's composure finally snapped. "That's not true. I was trying to help. She's lying. He's manipulating everyone." Her outburst echoed across the silent room. The judge sighed, shaking her head. "Enough, Ms. Avery. This isn't about neighborhood standards, it's about obsession." The prosecutor ended with one final question. "Mr. Collins, after everything that's happened, what do you want from this court?" I paused, looked toward Emily, then at the empty stroller parked by the bench. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I just want my family safe." The courtroom stayed silent for a long moment. Then the judge spoke. "Ms. Avery, the evidence is overwhelming. You are hereby prohibited from contacting or approaching the Collins family within 500 feet. You will also face charges for falsifying police reports and harassment." Karen went pale. The gavel fell. As officers approached to escort her out, she turned once more toward us, but this time there was no fire in her eyes. Only disbelief that the power she clung to so tightly had finally been stripped away. When it was over, Emily leaned her head against my shoulder, whispering, "It's really done?" I looked at her, tired, bruised by weeks of fear, but still standing, and said softly, "It's over, Em. She can't touch us again." Justice might have been served inside that courtroom, but for people like Karen, defeat doesn't sink in quietly. It festers. It finds ways to scratch at dignity even when the world moves on. 2 nights after the hearing, Emily and I were finally sleeping without fear for the first time in weeks. Lily's soft breathing filled the baby monitor. Outside, the wind whispered through the pine trees. Peace fragile but real. Then, headlights flashed across our window. A car idled in front of our house for several minutes. I moved quietly to the curtain, instinct kicking back in like muscle memory. My stomach clenched when I saw her, Karen, alone, sitting in her car, staring at our house. For a moment, I thought she might try something desperate. Then she just crumbled. Her head dropped to the steering wheel, shoulders shaking. She wasn't angry anymore. She was broken. Emily appeared behind me, whispering, "Is that her?" "Yeah." "Call the police?" I shook my head. "No need. She's finished." I stepped onto the porch, calm and deliberate. The night air was cold, carrying that metallic scent of rain again, the same one from the day everything started. Karen looked up when I reached the curb. For the first time, her eyes weren't sharp or hateful. They were hollow. "You ruined me," she said quietly. "They kicked me out of the HOA. My friends won't talk to me. My husband left." I didn't answer right away. The streetlight above us flickered, catching the tears she tried to hide. "You did that to yourself," I said finally. "You forgot what this place was supposed to be. A home, not a battlefield." She laughed, bitter and trembling. "You think you're better than me because you were a soldier? You fight for control too." I took a slow breath. "The difference is I fight for people. You fight to own them." Her eyes filled again, but this time with something close to realization, or maybe regret. She whispered, "I just wanted people to listen." I nodded once. "Then start by listening to yourself." She didn't reply. She put the car in reverse and drove away into the dark. That was the last time I saw her. A week later, a for sale sign went up on our lawn. By the end of the month, the house stood empty, blinds drawn, mailbox stuffed with junk flyers. Sometimes, when I passed by during morning runs, I caught myself feeling sorry for her. Power had been her identity, and without it, she was lost. Emily told me one night, "You didn't just protect us. You taught her a lesson, even if she'll never admit it." I smiled softly, watching Lily sleep. "No," I said, "life taught her. I just refused to let her take ours down with her." 3 months later, the sound of the ocean replaced the echo of sirens. We'd moved to a small coastal town 2 hours south, a quiet cul-de-sac where the loudest thing at night was the hum of waves brushing against the rocks. Emily was different now, stronger. She still had shadows under her eyes, but when she smiled at Lily, it was real again. Our daughter had grown heavier, healthier, her laughter echoing through the open windows like sunlight itself. The day we unpacked the last box, I found the old security cameras tucked at the bottom. I held one for a while, staring at it, the silent witness that had saved us. Then I tossed it into the donation bin. We didn't need eyes watching anymore. That evening we walked along the beach. Emily's hand slipped into mine, sand cool beneath our feet, the scent of salt thick in the air. For the first time, I wasn't scanning horizons or reading threats in the wind. I was just present. "Do you ever think about her?" Emily asked softly. "Sometimes," I admitted, not with anger, just wondering what made her that way. She nodded. "Some people can't stand peace. It reminds them of everything they're missing." I looked down at Lily, bundled in her blanket, asleep against her mother's chest. "Then we'll make sure she grows up never mistaking control for care." A seagull cried overhead. The waves rolled in, pulling at the shore with rhythmic certainty, a heartbeat you could trust. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't known how to name since leaving the Navy: home. Before the sun dipped completely, Emily took my arm and whispered, "You think we'll ever stop looking over our shoulders?" I smiled, watching the orange light fade behind the water. "We already have. We're still standing. That's enough." Later that night, I wrote a note for myself, a simple reminder taped to Lily's nursery door. Strength isn't about what you can fight. It's about what you can protect. Every time I walk past it, I remember that day on the porch when a stranger thought she could take what was mine. And I remember what stopped her wasn't anger or violence. It was love armed with discipline. The kind that never backs down and never forgets.